All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to tackle the secret to customer satisfaction. Now, this is something we deal with literally every single day, right? But what's really behind that feeling of being satisfied or totally furious? Well, the answer, it's probably not what you're thinking. So let's kick things off with a little puzzle. Think about this. Why is a 10-minute wait at the DMV just infuriating? But waiting 10 minutes for an amazing gourmet taco feels totally fine. I mean, 10 minutes is 10 minutes, right? The clock ticks the same. But the feeling, it's night and day. So what is going on here? Well, here's the big reveal. The answer isn't really about the service itself. It's about what we expect. See, our satisfaction isn't some objective rating. Nope. It's more like a personal report card, and we're always grading the experience against the expectations we walked in the door with. And to really see just how powerful our expectations are, get this. There's the story about an American family who booked a 2-star hotel in London. They figured, basic. What they got was slanting floors, a tiny shower, even a hole in the wall. Sounds like a total nightmare, right? But here's the kicker. Seasoned European travelers, they weren't even surprised. To them, yeah, that's pretty much what a 2-star hotel is. Same exact hotel, same service, but completely different reactions. It all came down to what they were expecting in the first place. So, what this tells us is that every single time we judge a service, we're not just looking at it in a vacuum. We're holding it up against this personal benchmark we have in our heads. So, let's break that down. What exactly makes up that benchmark? Okay, so it really all starts with this. For any service, we're actually juggling 2 different levels of expectation. Think of it as what we hope for and what we're willing to settle for. And this chart from the source material just lays it out so clearly. You can think of these 2 levels as the goalposts for any experience. Up at the top, you've got desired service. That's the dream. And way down at the bottom, you have adequate service. That's, the bare minimum. So what are we really talking about here? Well, desired service is that dream scenario. It's what you hope will happen. The flight takes off early, the waiter anticipates your every need, customer service answers on the first ring. It's the wow factor. And then there's adequate service. This is the absolute bare minimum you'll accept without getting mad. It's not good, it's not bad, it's just fine. But if the service dips even a little bit below that, that's when you start getting frustrated. But here it is, the real aha moment of this whole thing. The concept that ties it all together is actually the space between those 2 levels. This is where all the action happens. And that space has a name. It's called the zone of tolerance. It is literally the range between your dream service and the bare minimum. You can think of it as the meh, it's fine zone. So to put it a little more formally, it's the range where the quality of service can kind of bounce around, and you don't really get upset or even notice. Like a waiter takes 5 minutes to bring your water instead of 2, you probably won't even register it. Why? Because that's still comfortably inside your zone of tolerance. And here's why that's so important. As long as a company's performance lands somewhere inside that zone, you're basically satisfied. But the second it drops below that adequate line, boom, frustration, dissatisfaction. But what if it goes the other way? What if the service actually performs above your desired level? Well, that's where you get customer delight. That's that pleasant surprise that turns you from just a customer into a real fan. Okay, but here's the really interesting part. This zone isn't a fixed thing. It's not the same for you as it is for me, and it's not even the same for you in every situation. Think of it like a rubber band that's constantly stretching and shrinking. So what are the forces pulling on it? Right. Your zone of tolerance is totally dynamic. I mean, picture this. You're sprinting through the airport, about to miss your flight. Your tolerance for a slow security line is basically 0, right? Your zone is paper thin. But now, imagine you're on vacation, strolling to the beach with all the time in the world. A 10-minute line for an ice cream cone? No big deal. Your zone has expanded way out. Now, these charts might look a little complicated at first glance, but the idea behind them is actually pretty simple. All they're showing is that there are different factors pulling your desired service level up or down, and a totally separate set of factors pulling on your adequate service level. Let's break them down, starting with what shapes that dream scenario. So what makes you hope for the best? Well, first, there are your personal needs. If you're planning a high-stakes client dinner, your desired service level for that restaurant is going to be through the roof. Then there's your personal service philosophy, your deep-seated belief that companies should treat people well. And finally, something called derived expectations. This is when your expectations come from someone else, like your boss saying this company party has to be absolutely perfect. Suddenly, it's not just your standard anymore, is it?
All right, now let's talk about the floor. What influences your bare minimum level? First up, perceived alternatives. This one is huge. If there's only one gas station for 100 miles, you're going to be a lot more tolerant of high prices and dirty bathrooms. Then you've got situational factors, things nobody can control. A massive storm hits, yeah, you'll be a lot more forgiving when your pizza is 30 minutes late. And finally, predicted service. This is what you think is going to happen. Let's be honest, you walk into the DMV predicting it's going to be slow, so your adequate bar is already on the floor.
And get this. This is another really key idea. We don't have just one zone of tolerance for an entire company. We have different zones for different parts of the service. So if you look here, our zone for reliability, did the package actually show up on time, is super narrow. We expect that to be perfect. But our zone for something like empathy, how warm and fuzzy the customer service agent was, it's way wider. We're a lot more forgiving about that stuff, as long as they solve our problem.
Okay, so this is a really cool model, right? But you might be wondering, why does any of this actually matter? Well, it matters a lot, because this isn't just some academic theory. This is a practical blueprint that businesses can use.
For any business, understanding the zone of tolerance is basically a superpower. If you can figure out what your customers' zones are, you can manage them. You can deliver satisfaction exactly where it counts the most without having to spend a fortune trying to be perfect at everything. And this really breaks down how they do it. See, businesses are shaping our expectations all the time, whether we realize it or not. When a pizza place advertises delivery in 30 minutes, that's an explicit promise. They've just set your expectation and narrowed your zone of tolerance for them. Or think about implicit promises. A fancy hotel lobby and high prices, they're implicitly promising you amazing service. The smartest companies know how to pull all these levers, word of mouth, past experience, to make sure the expectations they set actually match the reality they can deliver.
But you know what? This isn't just about what businesses can do. Understanding this whole framework is super empowering for us as customers. It helps us kind of decode our own emotions, to understand why we're so frustrated or why we were so delighted, and see the invisible forces that were shaping that feeling all along.
So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought, a little challenge. The next time you have an experience with a company, whether it's amazing or just terrible, stop for a second and ask yourself, what was my zone of tolerance when I started this? Was the service really that good or that bad, or did my own expectations kind of set the whole thing up? The answer, I bet, is going to surprise you.